Thanks for watching this portion of Garage Logic today on our YouTube channel, and hit the subscribe button if you wouldn't mind. And also thanks to our friends at Everest Men's Health for sponsoring this. Go to everestmenshealth.com today to see if they can help you with better energy and better health. And catch the Garage Logic podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
We have our friend Kendall Qualls joining us. Hello, Kendall.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Oh, I'm so glad you're running, sir. Your victory's imperative. I don't know what we can do for you. In fact, I'm very nervous, Kendall, if you even want to be associated with us, because everybody we've championed has lost.
Well, you know what? You did a good predictor last year about me running. You're almost like the old Johnny Carson to get,
right?
You know, with the envelopes,
right?
So you might need to bring up the envelopes with a better forecast for this time next year.
Are you prepared for the travails you'll face? In other words, how will the left, we already have hints of it, but how will the opposition react to a self-made black man, war veteran, family man, intact nuclear family with kids? How are they self-made? How are they going to react to that?
Well, they'll find something, and you know, even though you know I voted for President Trump, they'll find something aligned with that, or whatever they want, what they call Larry Elder. But here's what I can tell you: they're definitely not going to run on their record.
Right.
I had a reporter ask me. He said, "You know, Kendall, they're going to have millions and millions of dollars to run." I said, "Great, they're going to need them because here's what's happened." Minnesota was ground zero for all the rioting, looting, and defunding the police initiatives that spread across the country. And in the center of it all is Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison, and our governor, Kim Walz, and his weak leadership that allowed that to happen. And in its place, in 2 years, they've been pushing anti-American CRT in schools, all the while record crime. And I tell people, that's going to change day one when Minnesotans elect me as governor. And day one. And so they can come at me with everything they have, everything they want. But at the end of the day, I'm going to remind people this is not even a political issue. Security and safety in homes and communities is number one issue for the elected officials. And I'm going to make sure that happens.
Will you clarify for us your position on Trump? You said you voted for him, but are you part of the gang that still adheres to the election being a false result?
Well, you know what? At the end of the day, we had some irregularities that have happened that was unprecedented. It was the first time in American history we have a president that actually got more votes than he did in his first election that actually lost. So we definitely had irregularities. I've never been on record to say that the election was stolen. But here's the thing I want to make sure that people understand. There is nothing wrong with Republicans challenging and asking about the election, not just because of Democrats have done it all along. If you ever heard of Stacey Abrams, but we have on record in this state, after an audit was done, that we've had a Senate seat that was lost from an election that went awry. Norm Coleman should have been elected as senator, even after the forensic evidence was done at the end. That election should have gone to Norm Coleman, not Al Franken. And because of that election, we have Obamacare.
Do you accept that President Biden is your president?
I do.
Good. Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, you know what? But again, the issue around this is, I bet right now 60% of the people wish he wasn't, based on current polling.
Yeah, but I think it's important to establish that you, given your sense of patriotism and loyalty to this country, you're not one of these people running around saying Biden is not the president.
No, and you know what? I've never said that publicly or privately or otherwise.
Right.
I conceded my election at the time, and if anything, it's time for us to take a look at how do we win not only the president again, win the White House again, but how do we fix local issues with our governor in the state, where what we see right now is a record number of people leaving the state they love not just because of the crime issue, but we have a governor that enforces one of the highest tax burdens in the country on the business community, private citizens, and even retirees by taxing their Social Security benefits.
Yeah.
And, things are so dire, Joe, that we don't need a career politician tinkering around the edges on this thing. We need a change, a leader from the private sector with private sector solutions.
Absolutely.
Kendall, one of the things that I've been, really dwelling on here, mostly this month in January, is, of course, the January 6th thing that happened in 2021. Pretty awful, and I don't disagree that it's bad. And there's been a lot of focus on that on the national level. But what the Democratic Party and everybody on the left is ignoring is the unbelievable rioting and violence we saw, like you said, that started right in Minneapolis, and how the Democratic side just completely ignores that as being insignificant. And it was horrible here, as you know, and I'd like to at least see, or I'd like to hear your opinion on that, and then maybe in the future, as you say, when you go on the offense, like you've promised, to bring that up.
Well, I will bring it up, but here's what we have. The Democratic Party, and this gets back to Joe's point, they're not going to talk about their record, their issues, and how would there be a better Minnesota because of it. Right. They're going to lambast me. They're going to find, make up stuff that they've have a record of doing.
Yeah.
They're not going to run the record. And in fact, it's been so bad here lately that when you think about all the things that have been going on and they're pushing against Americans are getting exhausted, really getting exhausted, being bullied. And this goes back to your point earlier. It's that, they ignore all the negative things. I mean, the tearing down the monuments, the burning down the cities, and saying it's okay to do that because it's insured. Well, it's not okay.
Oh, no.
But what we see, we have a party willing to do anything to stay in power. For example, they're willing to abolish 233 years of the Electoral College, 180 years of the filibuster.
Right.
They want to pack 150 years of the Supreme Court. They want to pack the Supreme Court. They're willing to do anything to stay in power, even if it attacks the character of a person and breaks them down or do anything to disparage them or their family. That's what they're willing to do to stay in power. Not talk about their issues. It's about fear, frighten. They want to make sure that they stay in power so much that it's all about dictate, mandate, and regulate people's lives.
What does your candidacy mean to your group, Take Charge Minnesota? That's going to remain viable, isn't it?
Yep, it's going to remain viable. It's going to remain strong. In fact, there are other cities and other locations that want to take have Take Charge chapters. So that's being handled by another leadership team, and it's in good hands.
What would you have done differently than Walls on COVID, which is a terribly complicated issue and a terribly complicated question, but I would imagine you have different views as how you would have approached it.
Well, number one, I believe that the best decisions are made locally. Our policy should not mirror California's or New York's.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the outcomes, the death rates as relates to long-term care, you'll see it's very similar to New York's because those policies were followed very similar to New York. And so, Joe, it is very easy for us to handle these things at local level we have medical experts from the Mayo, that can epidemiologists, infectious disease specialists, virologists that can actually give us a good outcome data so we can make good decisions. Our decisions were actually probably handed down to Governor Walz from the Democratic Party because everything was done similar in other states.
Kendall, I'm glad you mentioned that because earlier today, Joe and I were discussing this. I have two young kids that are in elementary school, and we received an email from the school district talking about plans of possibly going to distance learning. And I don't think government understands the hardship that they put on families, working families, when it comes to young kids and distance learning. And the idea that we are in some way as a society and as a nation are going to be able to escape this virus, I think that there's too many people that don't understand it's going to be here forever. Yes, we can take precautions. Yes, we can get vaccinations. And that's great. And we encourage people to do that. But this idea that we are going to find a way to escape this is utter nonsense.
Yeah.
Well, I've moved beyond the idea that that they think we're going to save it, and they're doing it for other reasons.
Like, what do you think?
Explain.
First of all, this is the teachers union. You have a Democratic, for example, in Chicago, you have a Democratic mayor trying to get the teachers unions to get back to work. Just like the teachers union and what we're seeing in our state, they're driving this critical race theory, but they changed the name to say they're not teaching it, but they are. They have an agenda that goes against what we believe here in a country as American citizens, the U.S. Constitution, everything that we all believe as far as the country was founded on. They could care less. They're driving their agenda from the teachers union, and unfortunately, even they got off the leash of the Democratic Party, and they're even running their own agenda in democratically held cities and districts.
What do you think? What do you think critical race theory advocates hope to bring about? What is their end game?
Yeah, that's really for them to explain, because at the end of the day, it is not about racial reconciliation at all. It is very divisive. It undermines the very core idea of America, and it basically says that the promise of America for everyone is a lie.
Well, it undermines the very fact of all of us trying to get along together.
Exactly, and so I can't tell you. I don't want to speculate. I can only think of the worst, but I do know it's not consistent of who we are as Americans, and not consistent with our values, and nor is it consistent with the Constitution. And unfortunately, a lot of Americans have good hearts, they good intentions, and they believe what they hear. It's a way for us to make sure we talk about diversity. Well, look, the America that I grew up in, without critical race theory, well, my grandparents and parents would have loved to have grown up in. We've come a long way since then. The issues of disparity that we have in this country are not about race. They're about two-parent family disparities.
Yeah.
And they don't even want to talk about those things. In fact, strengthening the family unit is not even on the list of things that should be considered when you look at the solutions from the critical race theory proponents.
Well, I've always said to the left that black people should rise up and say to the left, quit doing us a favor.
Well, you know what? We had Jason Riley in. I think you guys know that. He actually had a book that said, please stop helping us.
Yep.
I'm publishing an op-ed that will be coming out next week on Martin Luther King holiday. And it's thousand. Look, we were better off then, the day he was killed.
Mm-hmm.
Black families were stronger then than they are now.
Yes.
Wow.
With the civil rights barrier, with all the barriers that have come down, why is it that things have gotten worse in the black community? There's going to be a reckoning there, and I hope my op-ed and the work that I've been doing will help bring a reckoning where we start having a strong awareness and get that turned around culturally.
Well, we're rooting for you, sir.
Yeah, let me just reiterate. I loved your announcement, Kendall, when you said we're not going to go on the defense. We're going to go on offense. And I just love that attitude. And I'm hoping every time they try to nail you with some of this nonsense that you turn around, go on the offense, and make them try to defend themselves. And that's a wonderful attitude.
And as long as you go on offense and don't have Kirk Cousins as your quarterback, I think you're going to be fine.
Well, that's good. Well, guys, listen. I want to leave it at this. You know what? What I want to do, we're going to win the delegates. We're going to win the support of the delegates, and we're going to win the general election. Because the emphasis is going to be, look, we're not going to be the generation that lost the America that we know and we love. We're going to be the generation that saved it, restored it, and passed it on to the next generation. We have to do it, or we're going to lose it forever.
Do you have hopes of garnering the support? You entered a very crowded field, and there are some strong candidates in that field. Do you hope to garner their support?
Yeah, so I'm going to get their support, and we have a group of they're good people. I know them, and we tease and make fun. But we have 3 elected officials, and actually 4 elected officials. 3 senators and mayor, and we have someone outside of politics, and myself. And I tell you, the story of my life is a living case study that the promise of America works. And I'm going to make sure that gets out there into more than I can. It works regardless of race or social standing. And I tell people, look, it's really not a crowded field. I mean, a lot of the guys are really the same. It's like you have Coke, Diet Coke, Cherry Coke, and I'm not going to try to explain who's one of the other.
Right.
But with my candidate, something different. It's really a bold taste of freedom, and I mean that. I mean, we need something from outside politics to bring back what it means to be American again.
Well, we hope to be talking to you frequently.
All right, thanks.
Best of luck,
guys.
sir.
You bet. Bye.
Thanks, Kendall.
Thank you.
Wow.
That's a Garage Logic candidate.
Yes,
I
he
can't
is.
ask for any more.
Go get them.
I thought it was important to clarify. I think it brings a certain amount of peace to the war to have Kendall say, yes, I voted for Donald Trump, because he'll be attacked for that. But to then also say, but Joe Biden is my president. He's the president of the United States.
Yeah, it was important to establish
That's important
that.
to us.
Yeah.
He's not, this isn't Marjorie Taylor Greene here. This isn't Matt Gaetz. This is an American citizen who happens to love the country. And even that will be contested. It's very popular now to not love this country by a certain faction of the political world. And he does love the country.
And he loves all parts of Minnesota. You're not going to hear any rocks and cows nonsense out of him, belittling outstate Minnesota or greater Minnesota. It's not going to happen.
It's so exciting to think that someone of that character
Has an interest in running?
has an interest in doing this.
Yes.